welcome back. Today we're going to talk about fashion trends and their explanation of the matter. First off, we're going to go over shaving the legs, which I sometimes do just so I'm aerodynamic. Women have not always shaved their legs. Indeed, under the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, who is a trendsetter of her time, women weren't expected to remove body hair. Instead, the fashion police of that era dictated that women ought to remove eyebrows and hair from their foreheads instead, to make their faces appear longer. Quite an interesting take on how to make your face longer, sort of like potato head. But leg hair? No need to shave. So why did this change? Simple answer is World War II. During the war, the US experienced a stockings shortage as the government redirected the use of nylon from stockings to war parachutes. For women, the nylon shortage meant having to bare their legs in public. To be deemed socially acceptable, women began to shave their legs. After the war, as skirts became shorter, the trend stuck around. Interestingly, they could use the hair from those long years of not shaving for the parachute as well. That's a lie. I was just making a joke. Why girls wear pink and boys wear blue? Well, we've been there before. At a baby shower, the color of everything, from tablecloths to napkins, corresponding to the gender of the baby. Even those beautiful bombs of color and so forth. Boys for blue, pink is for girls. But things were not always this way. For centuries, children younger than 6 mostly wore flowing white dresses, according to the University of Maryland historian Joe B. Palati, who wrote Pink and Blue, telling the girls from boys in America, white cotton can be bleached, she says, which made a practical choice in the 1900s. Colors began to be used as gender significance, but the colors didn't mean what they do now. For instance, June of 1918 article from Popular Fashion magazine declared the general acceptance rule is pink for the boys and blue for the girls. The reason is that pink is more decided and stronger color. It is more suitable for the boy, while blue, which is more delicate and dainty, is prettier for the girl. Polio says that these trends weren't particularly widespread. Around 1985, that all changed with the rise of prenatal testing, which allowed parents to determine the gender of the child. As expected, parents learned the sex of their babies. They began to shop for girl or boy merchandise. Of course they did. Retailers noticed and started to increase their sales by individualization of these clothings. Sorry if I butchered that. I know I did. For the most part, this trend appears to have stuck. But Pallotti warns that it presents a challenge for children who do not conform to the colors assigned to their gender, such as, I wish I had black coloring, or maybe a dark red. Why women and men buttons are on opposite sides? I was unaware of this until I looked into it. Odds are you own a button-up shirt. Take a look at which side the buttons are on. If you're a man, chances are the buttons are on the right. If you're a woman, you'll likely find the buttons are on the left. There's an interesting historical reason for this. Mullane M. Moore, who created women's blouse brand Elizabeth and Clark, explains, when buttons were invented in the 13th century, they were like mostly new technology, very expensive. Wealthy women back then did not dress themselves. Their ladies' maid did instead. How lazy of them. Since most people were right-handed, this made it easier for someone standing across from you to button your dress. As for men's shirts, fashion historian Chloe Chapin traces the fashion quirk to the military times. Access to a weapon particularly trumped everything, she says, noting that a firearm tucked inside a shirt would be easier to reach from the dominant side. That makes sense. Nowadays, mostly guns are on the waist, unless you have a really cool shirt from Kohl's. Another fashion trend that was stopped. Men stopped wearing high heels. For generations, a pair of high heel has signaled feminine beauty. But before then, high heels were a staple in men's closets, even if they were stuck in the closet. Elizabeth Semmelk of the Beta Shoe Museum in Toronto says the high heel was worn for centuries throughout the Near East as a form of riding footwear. When the soldier stood up in the stirrups, the heel helped him to secure his stance so that he could shoot his bow and arrow more effectively. About the 15th century, when Persian and European cultures exchange heightened, European aristocrats adopted high heel shoes as a symbol of their wealth. According to Stamlak, elites have always used impractical clothing to showcase their privileged status, such as their very cool hair and wigs, such as these photos right now. Fast forward to Enlightened era, which brought with it an apparition for this practical use, and men began to renounce the unpractical high heel, since you don't always have a horse lying around. But sexism prohibited women from being viewed as rational beings. Samhack suggests that the desirable of women was then seen in terms of irrational style choices like the high heel. Oh, the heels of today. So if you wear a heel nowadays, hopefully you have a horse. And if you're a man, well, you can wear a heel no matter who you are. It's really up to you. I don't really care. Why we paint our nails is another thing. If you thought the manicure was a new phenomenon, you'd be wrong. Did you know the world's oldest manicure set, made from solid gold dating to 32,000 BC, is over 5,000 years old? The ancient Babylons, who created that set, were known to have love caring for their nails. Ming Dynasty elites were also fans of painting nails using a mixture of egg whites, gelatin, and rubber dye, so their nails crimson black. In England, Elizabeth I, a fashion icon for their day, was widely admired for her manicured nails and beautiful hands. You go girl. Susanna Shapiro, a researcher at the Costume Institute at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, says that long fingernails are impractical for hard labor, so they have to tend to signal an elite social status. But Shapiro admits that nail trends come and go. During the 1920s and 30s, the French manicure was in. However, during the 1960s, women preferred a more natural look and rarely painted their nails. Nowadays, it has been more common for men to paint their nails, more so the youth or other people, but trends come and go, I suppose. My nails are quite clean, but pretty neutral. Why long hair became a thing for women? While hair trends have fallen in and out of fashion, one thing across cultures and millennia has remained fairly constant: the expectation that women would have long hair. We've seen it from the depiction of long-haired Aphrodite to St. Paul's letter to other people, in which he wrote, "If a woman has long hair, it's a glory to her." Kurt Sten, author of Hair, A Human History, fascinating book, says that women almost always have longer hair than men. But why? According to Sten, a former professor of pathology and dermatology at Yale, hair is highly communicative. It sends messages about sexuality, religious beliefs, and power. In particular, he believes that long hair can communicate health and wealth. That's a fun tongue twister. To have long hair, you have to be healthy. Sten says you have to eat well as well, have no diseases, no infections or organisms. You have to have good rest and exercise as well. So make sure you do push-ups to make sure your hair is long. He adds as well, to have long hair, you have to have your needs in life taken care of, which implies you have to have wealth to do it. So if you work at McDonald's and your hair may be short. By the way, there's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's. Why some people sag their pants? In 2014, the Ocala, Florida City Council passed an ordinance banning the practice of sagging or wearing one's pants below the waistline, or in some cases, the buttocks, showing the crack, unless you're a plumber. On city-owned property, an offender would receive a $500 fine or 6 months in jail. Similar bans have surfaced from New Jersey to Tennessee. The rationality behind this sort of legislation usually goes something like this. Sagging represents a dangerous lack of self-respect, an embrace of gang culture. Now, is it a symbol of moral discipline or decline? How did sagging originate, actually? You may be asking. According to the University of Massachusetts historian Tanisha C. Ford, origins of sagging can't be definitely traced, but there are two leading theories. First is that inmates prohibited from wearing belts in prison often sag their uniforms. Then they continue this style after returning home. The second theory is that convicts wore their pants low as a means of letting other prisoners know that they were sexually available, which I find it quite funny for rappers to do so, but unless you're Lil Nas. Why we wear wedding bands on the ring finger? I was always curious about this. When this ring, I thee wed, the ring is slipped onto the fourth finger of the left hand, and there you have it, a bride and groom. But have you ever asked yourself why we slip our wedding rings onto that certain finger? The tradition can be traced back to Roman times. The Romans believed that a vein ran directly from the heart to the ring finger. They named it Vena Amoris, or vein of love. Cute. Naturally, they thought it'd be fitting to place one's wedding band on that finger. Quite romantic, to say the least. By the way, modern science have proven that all fingers have veins connecting to our hearts. So, you can put your ring wherever you want, I suppose. Why men wear ties? They don't keep us warm, aren't practical, and they are often uncomfortable. So why do men wear them, to say the least? Most neckwear historians agree that necktie grew prominent around the time of the 30 Years' War in the 1600s. To fight the war, King Louis VIII employed Croatian mercenaries who wore a piece of cloth around their neck. While these early neckties were largely functional, they tied the tops of their jackets. King Louis VIII liked them as a ornament on the neck. Indeed, he made these early neckties mandatory dress for formal gatherings and named them after the Croatian mercenaries, cravat. To this day, this means the necktie in France. Curiously, Croatia celebrates National Cravat Day every October 18th. In 2003, they had this holiday by tying 2,650-foot tie around the historic Roman amphitheater in Pula. It's a big neck. Last but not least, why do women shave their armpits? Women and men have had armpit hair for millennia or for as long as possible. So why do roughly 95% of women shave or wax their underarms? Who woke up one day and decided that women with armpit hair were unsightly? Well, we can thank a 1915 Harper Bazaar advertisement for that. Good job, Harper. Before then, women with bushy pits were of the norm. But the ad told women that modern dancing and sleeveless dresses were the next big thing, and that hair was out for the armpits. The ad featured a photograph of a young woman in a sleeveless dress. Her arms were arched over her head, revealing perfectly clear armpits. It's probably a good commercial for butter as well, because smooth. Within a few years, and after an onslaught of advertisements prompting the trend, hairless armpits were a thing, and natural hair was something embarrassing. Indeed, a 2013 Arizona State University study measured disgust triggered by women with armpit hair. It yielded responses like, "I think women who don't shave are a little gross." But naturally, hairy armpits might be making a comeback. One recent report found that 1 in 4 millennial women do not shave or wax their pits. Fascinating. My wife shaves. I shave. We're all smooth. Speaking of smooth, thanks for watching this video and enjoying. Thanks for all the new subs. Anyway, have a great one. Bye.